Thank you. It's hard to follow all those two speakers there. They have such great information. Oh gosh, is my thing, can it be formatted a little wider? That's
Probably
okay.
not.
Okay,
That'd be
you
complicated.
can read it. Sorry, we've the slide may be a little bit too wide. So I'm Nancy Jester, and that's how to get in touch with me, or check out my website or follow me on Twitter. So I just want to piggyback on some of the things that we heard from Nina and Danielle. First of all, I'm from Columbus, Nina, and where there are no charter schools, and I'll give you a little tidbit about that. So the Muskogee County School District has an interesting custom there. So we don't have charter schools, we don't have educational freedom down there. But we do like to protect law firms in Columbus, and it's very important to pay lawyers lots of money to work for the school district, because for 68 years, without bidding it out, the Muskogee County School District has used the same law firm. So isn't that fabulous? So our children struggle, but the lawyers are doing really well. So
that's good.
That should, that should sit well with all taxpayers. So. I salute Danielle for talking about educational freedom. This is a big, and AFP for focusing on this. This is a big focus of mine. So what hinders it? What hinders freedom here? And why should we care? So we're going to get to talk about my favorite subject, and that is money. So, money. We spend a lot of money, and it's, you get what you pay for, right? I mean, I was writing myself some notes. You get what you pay for. You can either choose to invest in success, or you can subsidize failure. And we'll talk about what we've been doing with our money. Okay, so we spend in the top 10 on education in the nation, okay? This is from census data. So in the aggregate, we spend in the top 10, okay? Slide. So just so if anybody tells you we're not spending any money, and I'm sorry, it was formatted fabulously on my computer, so sorry about that.
Sorry.
But that's okay, and this is available on my website, this presentation, which is nancyjester.com, so you can see it on there. I think it says AFP presentation. But what this slide does tell you is every state that borders Georgia has a higher graduation rate. Every single state. Then when you go west, you think, oh yeah, but Nancy, Mississippi and Louisiana, right? No, they have a higher graduation rate. Texas, all of them, they do. And here's the secret. They spend less per pupil to get that higher graduation rate, okay? So when anybody tells you that we just need more money, no, well that's just simply not what the facts say, because the states around us are doing far better. They're spending less per pupil, and I've got the spreadsheet data on that to prove that. As well, and I'll be posting that because I don't think I have that currently up. So the money hinders the money hinders your freedom, okay? Because it's being spent on the wrong things. So we're losing ground. This is a breakdown of money between state, local, and federal dollars. So you've got about. You pay your property taxes, right? So that money goes into education. A lot of your property taxes go to fund your school systems. Your state portion, depending on what county you live in, what district you're in, may differ as far as the percentage of the total budget the state money occupies. But it can be 45, 40, depends where you are. And the feds come in between 10 and 12%. We are spending more every year, except for during the recession, but then we had the stimulus money came in from the federal government, made up for a lot of the declination you saw from state and local sources. But in general, the trend is up. We spend more every year, and we don't seem to be, I don't think we're even treading water, actually, with that. So we can go on. Let's see, so that's one of my things. Less bureaucracy, more classroom. This is a big deal. So Georgia has, we like lawyers, okay? So leave here knowing that. We like to spend your tax dollars for education on lawyers. And we've seen a 41% increase in students. At the same time, we've seen a 72% increase in administrators and non-teaching staff. So again, we like lawyers, and now we know we like adult administrators, and these are the six-figure salaries and the coordinators and stuff, and they're not adding value to the classroom. one of the reforms I think we need to see in Georgia, our legislature has tried to limit the growth of central office by capping it as a total percentage of your budget. However, I think that our state has, our districts and our state play what I call budget bucket bingo, and that means, well, oh gosh, we can't go over 9%, so what I'm going to do is, instead of labeling this person in this bucket, I'm going to say they're in this bucket, and then I'll be under my 9%. And so they're playing these games. So we have disclosure, transparency problems with the way we reflect our budget at the state level, which, by the way, if you go to the state and try and find your local district's financial information, you can get it from 2 years ago. So you can't get current data on the DOE website, which is very disappointing, as they spend 50% of your state revenue, okay? 50% of the money goes on over there. And so that's really sad. One of the ways that we hinder educational freedom is the way we fund education. And this is a big thing. As Danielle said, they're going to, I'm not going to use the wrong word, scholarships. Right, what was it? Opportunity scholarships. Okay, so at the same time, when I've been in those committee meetings, and I encourage everyone, attend one education committee meeting of the Senate or the State House, and you will see what I encountered, which is fabulous, with these superintendents associations and administrative associations, various groups. They will wring their hands and talk about, oh, well, you know, we would love to expand educational freedom. I mean, this sounds great. We love kids. We're trying to help kids here. But you know, the funding formula, it's just so complicated. We can't really, you know, we couldn't determine how to give, what would it be? Because it's, you know, well, you know what? Y'all thought up this ridiculous Byzantine funding formula, and you know what? We can change that. And we need to assign the money to the child, okay? Because once it's now attached to the child, then your job gets a lot easier. Starting a charter school gets a lot easier. Homeschooling and knowing what that value is all about gets a lot easier, okay? Because, and you want the best result for your tax dollars. So them keeping you from having all of these options for children and having freedom, that prevents you from getting that return on investment. We've seen the outcomes, okay? So their ideas, the new innovative ideas, they're not on trial, okay? What we have is on trial, okay? And it has failed. So, so that's the other thing when they start saying, well, how will we know if, you know, that school we're going to start in Columbus? I mean, well, I don't know. It's not going to be, how are we going to hold it accountable? Like, who's holding you accountable? Who's holding you accountable for taking us to the bottom of the barrel, okay? So thank you for sponsoring our trip. I think we got it from here. So let's have some freedom. Let's have educational freedom. So we really have to change the funding formula. That's something that I want to work on, and I think we'll be able to help these brave folks up here who are doing wonderful work for kids and taxpayers. So it's your right to get information, and that's another thing you need to know about the money. You can look at your school district's budget. They should have them online, or they should have something that you can get. We have something called the open records laws in Georgia, so you can file an open records request if you're finding it difficult to get information. Almost every single thing you request outside of, you know, personal information about a child or, you know, someone's particular employee performance reviews or something like that, they are subject to open records. Okay, so you can get anything. They have to respond to you in 3 days with the information itself or some plan to get it to you. You can go to those websites, the Attorney General's websites, and find the information about getting an open records request. There's go to the next slide. I think there's a sorry, I get that. So there's a mediation process at the Attorney General's office if you don't get the information back. So it is your right to know. What I tell everybody, and you can go to the next slide, and I'm just sort of giving you the Reader's Digest, but you know, a summary here. When you look at budgets and you're trying to determine what questions to ask, how to look at it, look at variances. Compare your budgets to your actuals. Okay, what did they budget? What actually happened? That is when I sat on the CAB board in 2 line items alone. I found over $54 million in basic actuals were going over budget that they absolutely knew better. They were budgeting deceptively to just say they had a balanced budget, but they didn't. And $54 million were just wearing away of the accumulated cash reserves of the third largest school district in the state. We all care because we pay to the state, and the state redistributes this money to school districts. That's your money. That is your money, $54 million, just worn away in sort of a deceptive way so that folks didn't realize it was happening. They were also accounting on a cash basis when they're supposed to do it on a modified accrued basis, so the true liabilities and reserves of the district were never really being told to the public. That's another problem. So look for your variances. This is just one little thing I did. You can guess the budget it came from. But I found too, when they'd say, oh, we're cutting central office, we're cutting central office. So I look back over all these fiscal years. Those were the tough times when the recession came. And there were big decreases in all these different budgets and instructional salaries. Strangely, though, general administration salaries went up 14%. The signs are reversed here, so that's why it says negative. But that's the only one that went up. So if you're cutting central office, but when I look at the budget actuals for these years over time and they go up, well, what you're telling me is not accurate. So you've got to make sure the money matches the rhetoric they will give you. Okay, it's often inaccurate. Next slide. This was the $54 million, just in 2 line items, legal fees, because we like lawyers, and electricity. Electricity, we would always budget $10.5 million, no, except in fiscal year 2010. We tried to get better, budgeted $12 million, but generally we were spending between $15 and $16 million. So every budget cycle, you're accruing that, that $5 million is wearing away your accumulated reserves, and it's deceptive. If you've been spending $15 million every year, why do you budget $10 million? And why didn't the state, I always say you only get a county of DeKalb or a Clayton or a city of Atlanta in a state that let it happen. They let it happen. They knew these types of shenanigans were going on and yet offered no disclosure from the state's perspective. This is 50% of your state money came back, and they were offering you no disclosure that indeed the accounting techniques in DeKalb County school system, the third largest in the state, this is what was going on with your money. So that's a big risk for all of Georgians to take. So go through that. So that's what I said. Look at your variances, compare year to date. You can request a disclosure form that has to be filed by September 30th for the your fiscal year for your school districts, and it's on June 30. You can file a request for a DE-46, I think, is that right? DE-46, and get that, and that has a full picture of your accrued liabilities, and you can compare that to your budget statements that you get throughout the year from your school district and see if they line up. Next one. Just incentives for transparency. These are just some ideas I had. That's the other problem here, and I wrote myself a note. So we continue to get poor results, and we continue to give money when it gets misused. We've had indictments right now. There's trials going on in DeKalb County for a former superintendent COO who misspent SPLOST money and rigged bids. We've got scandals. We've got the cheating scandals. We've got 68 Years law firm in Muskogee County, because that's a custom apparently there. And no consequences. No consequences. Every administrator, except the ones that have been indicted or, till it got that bad, they have their jobs. There's so many of them out there. So there's no consequences to failure. So, we've got to have some options. We can't continue to subsidize it. You cannot continue to subsidize failure and send money. We have to be able to do better. Other states do better. Virginia and Texas have great accountability roles for their Department of Education, or in Texas case, it's called the Texas Education Agency. We need to adopt some of those best practices. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. These are just some other things. If you have a lot of bureaucracy, but you're always asking for class size waivers and having more and more kids in each classroom, well, maybe we should eliminate compensation to somebody, or limit some compensation, or take away, a board member's salary. Maybe we should look at holding superintendents that have a decrease in student achievement levels for 2 years. Do we keep giving them a license? Is that malpractice? At what point do we ask and say, we have to hold people accountable for failure? You know, so, and if you've got a deficit on your financial statement, DeKalb had a deficit, you know, maybe you should eliminate compensation to board members. I mean, if they are not watching the bottom line, why should they be drawing a paycheck? That's wrong. So, same thing, you know, if your achievement levels aren't what, you know, we've got to set some metrics. This is just, I'm just throwing something out there. We can have the conversation about setting metrics and holding them accountable, and we need to have that conversation, because right now there are no consequences. And that's it. There you go. So that's, so follow the money.